Welcome to Go Sports Live. I'm Matty Marshall, and I got Dave Pando here in the chair. Going to be talking to him today about his team's pretty much insane performance the past, two events, because they beat Heat the event before, and then this last event, it was just incredibly impressive. Ended up taking sixth place. We'll jump into all that. Also, the fact that Dave started this team, started a field out in Columbus. And it's a cool origin story, man. This is a good paintball origin story. It's a good paintball feel-good story. So buckle your seatbelts, and we're going to dive into this. And yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. We're building up to World Cup. Looking forward to seeing what some of these younger teams like Columbus LVL have at the biggest event of the year and what they're going to do there. So Dave, we'll jump right into it. I mean, obviously you got to be feeling really good right now because we're buddies. You and I are good friends. We've known each other for a long time, all the way back to college paintball. Then you moved out to San Diego. And so I'm just going to, kind of say it like it is. You guys were getting your asses kicked for a while. And then it's just so impressive to be able to do an interview with one of my buddies where we're not talking about how bad you guys suck. Instead, it's the exact opposite because you guys have been on
so good.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just start right there. Let's just start with how are you feeling in this moment, considering that you're coming off a sixth place, going to the last event. You guys beat Houston Heat, and then you come into the prelims, smoke everyone, mercy rule the Outlaws, beat Impact, beat Damage, beat Revo, make a Sunday for the first time. Again, I know you're feeling really good. We have talked a little bit about this, but let's just start right there, and then we'll backtrack what you're going to tell, your story, team story, but you must be just bathing in the glory of the awesomeness of the team's performance right now.
I mean, it's definitely a Cloud9 situation, and I mean, just pure validation, and I mean, all the above. I hope it goes as like a just an inspirational thing for any team to know that we all played D5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all the way up here, and then this happens. So we posted, or I posted the overtime point against Impact on Columbus LVL's Instagram the other day. And my caption was, imagine playing paintball your whole life with your best friends, and then this happens, because that is exactly what it was. And that's like top best moments. I mean, I have a kid, I have a beautiful wife. That was definitely, that weekend was something else, man. I can't even believe it still.
Well, let's backtrack a bit. And before we get in and talk about, I'm not going to say miraculous performance because you guys earned it. It was kind of one of those things. You guys came off the win against Heat at the last event in your last game, but that was not a good event for you guys except for that win. And, some people are like, oh, Heat was trying stuff and they were already in, so that one doesn't count. But every win you guys put on the board, people were discounting you. It was like, oh, that one doesn't count. Oh, this one doesn't count. But after a while, people were like, oh, no, dude, level's legit. Like, this is actually happening here. But I do want to dive into those performances and how you guys. But let's talk about how you got here. Because it was, you guys have been on the bubble here for a while. I mean, sitting at last place. I mean, obviously with COVID, but you guys started your pro career in Las Vegas, and you guys had some mixed success in semi-pro. Some second places, and and we're talking out of 27, 30 teams. I mean, there's a bunch of teams in semi-pro in that 2019 season. So the fact that, second place, but you didn't win one as far as I know. I think you guys won down in D2. But let's kind of just go down a little bit and discuss the history of level, because you guys, into the expansion, coming in, getting into the league, and had to deal with a lot of haters, people that were like, they don't deserve to be here. These guys are not pro paintball players. And you guys have had to, fight that mental uphill climb and the physical uphill climb of battling against all these crazy teams. And then now with the sixth place. So before we kind of get into the performance and what was going on, and we'll talk about the ins and outs of that, but let's talk about the beginning of the team and a little bit of your history, because you've been in this game for a long time. You have a paintball field, and you played college paintball, and that's when I got to know you back then. You moved out, you worked for Dive for a while, did some work for the PSP. I mean, behind the scenes, you've been grinding, doing this with wearing a bunch of different hats for a long time. So maybe we'll start with how you got into it. And obviously it looks like your dream was always to kind of have this team and have this field. So give us your story a little bit before we get into the origin of the team.
Well, yeah, I mean, you sort of broke it down. I mean, college paintball was probably the last path I took as a player. And during college, I was making all these connections. A big one was Chris Rail, president of the college league. And he's the one that helped me sort of get my foot in the door in the industry. After college, I really wanted to work in the industry. I started writing articles for Action Pursuit Games, name drop, that the magazine we all used to, poop and read, as when magazines were cool, and
Totally.
and some for Faceful. And my strategy, the way I got in the industry was I just started freelancing, not getting any money, just writing articles. And when I was about to graduate college, I would start writing articles about people I wanted to work for. And one of which was Giovanni from SE Village, Hollywood Sports. Giovanni DiGidio, one of my favorite people in the world. So I wrote an article about Gio's field, and I said, hey, I would love to work for you. I just graduated college with a marketing degree. And he said, well, if you lived in LA, maybe, but you're in Ohio. And so I packed my bags, called my cousin who lived in Redondo Beach, and moved to California. And then I showed up at Hollywood Sports, said, hey, Gio, I moved here. And so he's like, okay, cool. You can work in the pro shop for $9 an hour. And that was my in. But through that job, I made lots of connections, and I was just so happy to be there. I didn't care how broke I was. It was just super fun. And, Gio taught me a lot. And then Skinny Kevin Brettauer, Dynasty's coach now, but he used to work for Dye back in the day. And he had reached out to Chris Rail saying, hey, we need a marketing guy at Dye. Do you know any college grads that would be a good fit? And because I had done all that extra stuff for Rail back in college, Rail said, yeah, I think this kid Pando just moved to LA and is working for Gio. You should call him. So that was sort of how I got the gig with Dye. I went and interviewed with those guys. And from there, I decided to be an industry guy. I always wanted to be a pro player. But then once I started, I had so much fun in college, and I understood how much work it was going to take to get there. And I'm a worker, I'm a workaholic. And so I just decided that working in the industry was actually what I really wanted to do, more so than being a player. So I just put all my focus on that. And, had a great career with Dye. Went on to work for Camp Pendleton after that with Sean Walker. That's where I really learned the ins and outs of how to run a field. And once I got the idea in my head that I was ready to do a field, I could not do one in California for sure. Way too expensive and, not possible. So I started looking around, and then I just decided to go back. I saw there was an opportunity in Ohio, Columbus, and that's how Level Up was born. I wrote the plan, and I moved from, surfing every day in Carlsbad Beach to Columbus, Ohio, where it's cold, but when it's warm, it's nice. And now we have a beautiful paintball field here. So that's sort of my industry story. As far as the team goes,
I had just real quick.
Oh, yeah.
I had a baby almost get inside, so I had to go close the door again real quick. Can you repeat for me, because it's yeah. Sorry, as you well know, once I start walking, they just get into everything. So I just think it's kind of really fascinating that you did a lot of these kind of different jaunts with different people. So you go and you work with, under the Giant Sports umbrella with the SE Village and Hollywood Sports Park and the DiGidios. Gio is a master at his craft. And then basically all these different people that you worked with are masters of their craft. So, in Camp Pendleton, Sean Walker has done a really good job of running that field, and for a long time since he took it over from Russell Maynard from back in the day. And then, with Dye, same thing there. They've been in business for a long time. They've made some badass products. And it looked like everywhere you went, was that kind of just your journey, or did you intentionally, I'm going to go learn something from this guy, I'm going to learn from that something? Or was it just a door opens here, I'm going to go that way? Oh, look, another door over here. Or I'm going to try to force this door over. Like, how did your journey kind of come together when you're now looking back at it as a retrospective?
So definitely the latter. It seems like a well-orchestrated plan when I tell the story, but I literally packed, like when I'm writing articles, and I literally just packed my bags and moved to LA to go to the DiGidios. I didn't think I was going to open a field at that time. It was the door open, or I kind of opened it for myself. And that's sort of that's a big takeaway. And a lesson I tell a lot of people, like younger kids, is that you can just go for it. And I mean, you might fail, but if you don't go for it, nothing will happen. If I hadn't done that, I'd probably be like selling insurance in Ohio or something. So I'm so glad that I just, just had the balls to try. And it's not like I was chasing money either, right? Like, luckily I've always been a paintball kid my whole life. And so I never felt like I was working. I really never felt like I was working pretty much my entire professional career, which is something I'm very proud of and lucky. But all of those opportunities were just opportunities that either I made happen or because I busted my ass for like all those guys that I worked for, I never got fired or anything. I would just work so hard because I love to work. I'm working in paintball. Everything's great. And I just rode the wave, man, the whole way, wherever the wave took me. If it took me to, Northern California, Northern San Diego, PB, wherever I was going, I just took it and went for it. And then, until I felt like I was ready, I'm definitely, my parents were entrepreneurs. So, there was just like, all of a sudden I was just like, I think I'm going to open a field, and I just couldn't get that idea on my head. And that's what brought me back home. But yeah, I got lucky to really get a well-rounded industry experience from, the Hollywood sports, was where my office was when I was working for Geo and those guys. So, I mean, I'm surrounded by one of the most incredible paintball parks in the world, literally Disneyland. And I'm just seeing all that energy. And then you go to die, and I'm traveling the country, working and bumping elbows with all the people that I always looked up to, that I would see or write about in those magazines. And so I'm just making connections everywhere. And the cool thing about paintball is that because it's such a niche industry, it's small, and you can really meet, the people that you need to meet pretty quick if you get on the back end. And I was fortunate enough to do that. That's what Die really allowed me to do, was just to connect with the whole industry. And then, I go to Camp Pendleton, and I'm just seeing lines out the door, just people like crazy, the coolest fields. And, it was just such a great experience. All of the jobs were such great experiences that it was just so, inspiring, and it was an easy choice. Okay, let's do a field. That could be my life. No problem.
Well, it's the one thing I think is fascinating, because, people are always, hashtag grow paintball, grow the game this, grow the game that. And to me, the most important thing about that complicated puzzle of what is crucial and foundational is the fields. Because if you don't have, like, you can make the best paintball content in the world. The game could be 10 times more interesting and compelling than it is now. We could come up with the most insane format that would just suck people in. But if you don't have a place to go and play, a place that is going to be safe, that's going to be well run, not too expensive, but, cost enough money that the people can stay in business. I mean, basically all those things, that secret sauce that you need in order for the business to run like a well-oiled machine, but everyone that goes to that business to have an amazing time. If you don't have that, then the sport's going to suffer. And I think that's such a crucial thing. So I'm really happy that a guy like you is running a field, and hearing all the good things I've been hearing coming from your area. And I would, throw that challenge to anyone else out there in the world. Look at Dave's path and know that this is possible. It's not easy, obviously, or everybody would do it. Obviously, it depends on where you're at in the world, but it's the fields are you cannot overstate the importance and the foundational importance of having a good place to play. If you don't have, whether that's recreational tournaments, I mean, those are two completely different conversations. So maybe you could just, before we kind of jump in and talk about level and your guys' journey getting to the cool part of the story where you're at, is we're heading into World Cup, where we're actually looking at your team like, okay, well, what are they going to do next? This is pretty amazing. Can you tell me a little bit? Because like you said, you're building a Moundsfield right now. You're like, every time I talk to you, you're adding some new element. We've had the turf conversation. You are literally just coming off a day of grinding to make your field better, so that the patrons that come to your place can have a better experience, and then your business can be more sound, so it can continue in perpetuity moving forward. So talk to me about, with all the experience that you've had, the importance of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure, like, and not calling out is the wrong word, but just any field owner has a huge responsibility for our industry, and I like revel in that. I love that responsibility because I love hosting amazing birthday parties. We had one today, and I mean, there's 10-year-old kids. They just literally had the time of their life. They had the whole park to themselves. And that is what a field owner needs to be focused on 1,000,000%. I mean, I tell my staff all the time, our highest priority is the beginner walk-ons and the birthday parties when they come to our park. Obviously, self-equipped, X-ball, also very important, but our top priority is the beginners. So I always put my best staff on the beginners. I make sure that every group that's coming in, I prioritize which ref is on each group because those guys are the most important. So it sounds like a given, but I think everyone, including myself, can always improve on that beginner experience. And we all have to focus on it at all times for sure, talking to field owner, whoever's out there. Then as far as, as far as the experience goes for everybody else, I guess my only other thing to say to players, self-equipped, rental or self-equipped, just open play rec guys or X-ball guys, is that when you're going to a field, I think a lot of people sort of get really comfortable with their local field, which is great. That's how it should be. It should be a huge family. And definitely that's what we have at Level Up, which I'm very proud of. We have a huge family here. Everybody is it's just a great vibe if you come out to Columbus. And I'm sure it is at a lot of other fields as well. It's important to build that vibe. But it's also important for the players to bring up their local fields. So I think that there's a responsibility, especially on the X-ball side, for, X-ball teams tend, everybody wants a sponsorship, everyone wants a deal. That's just sort of how the game goes. And we all field owners know that. And we sponsor teams and we want to support everybody. There's got to be the other side. There's got to be the side where, like, if you're an X-ball player and you go to a field, write them a good review. Have your whole team write the field a good review for the field that you're at. The more that the players can build up their local fields, the better the field is, the better it is for everybody. And I think sometimes people forget about that. The customers do, where and it's mostly the X-ball guys. If you're out there, you're grinding every weekend. I'm not saying everybody volunteer and, quit your day job to come help your field, but just anything that you can do to help, whether it's an online review or posting a picture or inviting some friends and telling them about it when you're at the bar drinking, whatever it is, that stuff's really important. Like we are truly all in it together. And the more we help each other, the better it's going to be for everybody. So that's what I got.
Yeah. I think it's just important because, I think we lose sight of that sometimes, especially if you play a lot of tournaments, if you're not on that back end of the business side. I mean, I've just been around the back end of it enough and know that, we could, it's like people are always asking me, it's like, okay, well, when's paintball going to go mainstream? I'm like, dude, we've been in multiple video games, countless television shows, movies, commercials. I personally worked for, ESPN and the WGN and all these. It is mainstream. What do we do now? Like that's the question for me, is like, it kind of is mainstream. My wife's will watch some Hallmark card, some Hallmark movie bullshit. And I'm look up and be like, are they playing paintball again? They're just using it as like a trope constantly. Alex Frazier's always posting hilarious little, clips of it. So like, and yeah, it's generational knowledge is needed for the complexity of a sport that's as intricate as paintball. It's a complex thing. It's difficult to understand. And so, but I think that kind of lost in the equation is the business side of it a lot of times, because, and even more so than the stores, like a store is a crucial touch point, but stores, it's hard to run a store if it's not connected to a field. But the field is ultimately where you go play. So if you don't have like a badass place to go play recreational paintball where you can show up and not be part of a team, it's going to be kind of hard for us to continue to grow tournament paintball, because there's not going to be that, that fertile ground of the growth where people can kind of incubate for a little bit before they make the step up and or have the money to go and take the big bite to go play tournaments. So when I see guys like yourself and that are running fields and working their asses off to provide that good place and knowing how hard it is on the business side, it's, to me, it's just such a fundamentally important part of our sport, and then that's something that just, I think people need to understand a little bit. And sure, dude, if you guys are out there, girls are out there and you want to start a paintball field, like hit people up and ask questions. Obviously, if you're in the same market, maybe they're not going to help you out as much, if they're just 45 minutes down the road. But if it's in another state, who knows? Maybe somebody will be like, yeah, okay, here's how I did it. So it's just kind of, because I remember having conversations with you about having to go up and, and talk, having to sit, what was it, the city council meetings you had to go to. I mean, there's a lot of hoops that people have to jump through in order to pull the trigger to solidify and actually get a field. There's obviously money involved and, a metric shit ton worth of actual physical work required to build those fields. But again, it provides that place where you can incubate something like a Columbus level. So maybe we could kind of jump in at what point did you think, okay, well, I'm kind of fulfilling a little bit of a dream here. I'm starting my paintball field. Obviously you're sitting in the store version. I'm guessing this is the store version of your field. I know you just grinded your ass off, like building the mounds fields right now before the snow starts to hit the ground in Ohio. But at what point in this journey did you think, you know what, I want to have a pro team? Like, when did that happen?
Well, I mean, I didn't, again, just riding the waves, Matty. I did not start this field to start a pro team, but just got a little lucky that, the core group of guys that make up our team are locals pretty much, between Ohio and Pennsylvania, but it's just a group of guys that were together, all former NCPA players that are just really good friends. They've been, local, playing tournaments together. They make a team, and they were playing at another field. And then when I opened Level Up about a year after that, they called me and they just said, "Hey, we want to go pro." They were D1 or D2 at the time. Or no, sorry, it was their first year at D1. They did okay. But they wanted to ascend. They wanted to make it to pro and obviously win semi-pro to get there. And they just thought that Level Up was as if they started playing at Level Up, that their chances of going pro would be better, just to be surrounded by good infrastructure. Obviously I have connections in the industry. And so they said, "Hey, we want to switch fields. We want to come to you." So that was how this group of guys basically came to the field. So they came to Level Up as already an established D1 team. And when they came there, that's when we rebranded. That's when this group of guys became Columbus Level for the first time. And of course they get, a fat dye deal, an awesome Falcon paint sponsorship, and we're rolling. So that's how that came to be, is that, I built it. They called, they said, we want to go pro, but we think that we need to, be playing out of your field to do that. And obviously it was a great call, and here we are now. But it was a established group of guys that have been playing together for years and years that just, came to the field, and, just one of those got lucky things again.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, is it getting lucky, or is it just doing the things that attract other like-minded individuals? I'm always kind of been up in the air about what luck is. People will discuss that to the cows come home, but I don't know. To me, I feel like the luckiest people that I've ever met are people that seem to be in the right place they put themselves in what they think is the right place. And if it doesn't work out, okay, fine, they'll shake it off. But they're constantly trying to, insert themselves into a conversation or a physical place based on their intuition and their desire and their abilities. And then things just either play out or they don't. But I don't know. I don't necessarily think this is luck for you. I think it's just like, if you build it, it will come. And that's not, customers, but also like-minded, hardcore individuals that want to, because it's difficult. I mean, to play the game at this level requires such a large amount of time with no real promise of any sort of payoff, both, definitely not financially, but also mentally too. I mean, obviously it can be the opposite thing. And this is kind of where I want to get into your guys' story a little bit here. So, you guys go, so semi-pro, so from DZ All-Stars, then Columbus Level, and then starting in 2019, second right out the gate, and then a 7th second, and then kind of a rough end to the year with the 14th and a 14th. So kind of middle of the pack. And then you go pro. So talk to me about what was going on with your players. And then obviously I want to get into like who's actually on the team and who you feel deserves some merit right now in this current charge you guys have. We'll get to that in a second. But just the jump where you come out swinging hard, things are going really well, and you're relevant in the consideration for, semi-pro champion, but then the last 2 events don't go so well, middle of the pack, and then you go pro, so that's kind of a big bite there. Talk to me about how that all went down.
Yeah. So, I mean, winning a series is incredibly difficult, right? So you can't slip. You not once. You have to execute, make Sunday, probably top 4 almost every event. And that is a tall order, man. One thing can go wrong. That first, the Chicago event where we got 14th, we had some bad paint and we just, we're shredding and it was a paint thing. And we just couldn't shoot our guns and we got smoked in the prelims. And so just think about that. So we got 2nd place, 7th place, 2nd place. We are definitely a contender. And then we have a bad batch of paint, and now our chances of going pro are delayed by a year. And we're battling time. We're battling trying to get people, it was over at Chicago. You can't get 14th and win the series. Like you can't do it. So, one bad batch of paint and then you're screwed. I'm not making an excuse. It's paintball. It's what happens. It happens to pro teams all the time. So that is the really tough part about making the pro division, is that you cannot slip up in semi-pro, and you have to consistently try. Like, unless you get lucky and do it the first time, like, some like a AC Diesel situation, you are bad. You are trying to keep people from retiring and convincing everybody to continue spending money playing D1 so that maybe you can win the series and go pro. And it is such a tall order that people just take for granted. So then, so what happens, Matty? We get lucky, right? Or no, not lucky. We just work our asses off and are in the right place.
Hey, a little bit of both, right? A right place, right time, right talent. Yeah. You need all of that.
Yeah. So I'm working for Dye, and we are working with PC Katana. We sponsor them. I'm busting my butt for Dan, the owner of that team. Awesome guy, makes a great, huge t-shirt, just sublimation company. And obviously that's CEP rooted, which is where, when I was trying to go pro and stuff, I was playing with the CEP camp. So I have a connection to Dan. PC Katana's folding, and he's got a choice. He can give it up. He can sell the spot. Whatever. It's his spot. They didn't get relegated. They were just throwing in the towel, which is common. But I got the phone call because me and him had, I had a connection there. I had worked very hard for him at one point, and that's where it came full circle. And I could probably give 20 examples in the industry of how that happened to me personally. And that was why we got the pro spot. And just fast forwarding back to currently now, it's like one of the best parts about what happened at this last Chicago event, just the pure validation of all of it, is that we had to put up with so much shit because of making a decision that anybody else would have made in that moment. Like, anybody else would have taken the pro
jumped
spot,
at
right?
Would have jumped at it. Of
course. And I mean, I know I spent like $1.5 million buying the pro spot, but I still got the phone call because
liar.
I had done a good job. No, liar. It was 1.64. So I can't remember. But like, I mean, I had, so anyways, but the point is, anybody, like, we took the spot. Of course we did. And it's not like we,
do you want to live your paintball dream or not? That's the question.
Right,
like when that phone call comes in, it's like, hey, so it's like, hey, Dave, so you started this field and you guys got this team and you took 2nd and then 7th, 2nd, bad paint, 14th at cup, whatever. And then the phone call comes in. And basically what he's saying is, hey, I got this pro spot. Do you want it? But as that gets translated into like the overarching, like, Uber mind, basically it's the universe asking you, like, hey, do you want to live your paintball dream? You want to shot at the title? It's probably going to be super hard. You may get absolutely murdered when things start out, but it's totally up to you on this crazy run. But that's the opportunity. Do you want a shot? Do you want to be a pro paintball player? And like, the answer, if you have dudes that are down and the means to do that, should always be yes, because Jesus Christ, like you said, the other route is virtually impossible. I mean, some of these teams have been trying to do it for years. Like Mutiny has been trying to do it for years. Again, you have to have an insanely good year with the perfect team, and everything has to go right because only one team goes up. Now, that's another conversation, actually, that I've been having with some people, and I think that, and I will ask you maybe right now, what do you think? Do you think more than one team should get relegated a year to kind of open things up a little bit? Because some people constantly keep asking me about, oh, dude, the greatest paintball I ever watched was Champs and Challengers. And I'm like, they're like, why'd you guys get rid of that? I'm like, because the pro teams hated it. The pro teams would constantly complain to me about how vicious and gnarly it was and cold-blooded and cutthroat. And I'm like, yeah, but still people to this day talk about how amazing that was, because if you have sports, you need conflict and crisis or you bore your audience to tears. And with paintball, that's what we need, because not a lot of people have generational knowledge of this game. So the more dramatic and conflict and crisis filled it is, the easier it's going to be to get people to give a shit about it. So it's just like, and the easier it's going to be to get churned come through to live that paintball dream. Because yeah, to have one team go down, yeah, that's a lot easier once you get your spot in pro, but it's just so hard for the semi-pros and the guys coming up. Because like you said, you have to have that perfect run.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, well, to answer your question, I don't agree with adding more relegation, because I would actually argue that it's super unfair. It's actually extremely unfair to ask a pro team that has just been that just either got there, or sorry, a pro team that just got there, to ask them to not get last place in 1 year. I think that when you're talking about what we're actually competing against, like the analogy I like to use a lot, I love the movie Moneyball. I don't know if you've seen it. Moneyball?
Seen it.
Brad
Yes.
Pitt?
Love it. Huge baseball fan. Yep.
Dude, so that, there's a scene where he's just talking about, and I mean, like, there.
And I'm a Padres fan, bro. I'm really used to, I get it. Like the Padres have sucked. Yeah. And we just blew it again this year. We sucked for a long time. So I understand. I'm very, very familiar with pro teams being really bad at something. So I'm sorry, continue, but I just want to throw that in there. Like Padres, I get it.
Well, it's not so much that the Padres suck. It's more about the Oakland A's not having as much money as the Yankees, right? That's the big argument that he makes. Is he saying it's not fair? So we are,
life
Columbus
is not fair,
level,
Pando.
Right. I know. Well, and listen, I'm not sorry. I don't want that to come off whiny. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you have teams, you have money teams is what we call them, right? Everybody knows there's money teams, okay? There's teams with giant, unfathomable budgets that are paying their players, and they are the Yankees. And then you have teams like us who are spending a shitload of money to play in this division, of course, getting taken care of by sponsors, but it still costs a shitload of money on top of that. And we are competing against the Yankees. And I wouldn't even put us in the sense of we are the Oakland Athletics that just has a smaller budget than those guys. It's more like we're like a AAA baseball team trying to compete against the Yankees in the major leagues. Like there is no comparison between most of the bottom teams that everyone talks shit about and the top teams. Like it's night and day. So I think that's what makes what we just did exciting, and when any team ascends like we did this past event extra exciting, is because we are doing it with smaller guns. Like they have giant rocket launchers and we have pistols, and we're playing Call of Duty. Like,
have you seen Pando? Have you seen The Battered Bastards of Baseball, about the Portland Mavericks 70s team owned by Bing Russell? Have you seen this movie? It's a documentary.
No, Matty, that's only stuff that you have seen.
It's on Netflix
channel.
It's not like I had to hike up the history mountain and ask the history fairy and solve a riddle about like World War II and the Eastern Front or some craziness. You didn't have to do any of that. Like it's on Netflix. I just went like, what's this? Play. Like it's not even that crazy. I'm just saying. But definitely check it out. I think you'll dig it. It's super interesting because I think you'll see a lot of struggles like you guys have been dealing with. So it's basically about how, you were talking about the minor leagues, about how there's, when the Portland lost his AAA team, and then Bing Russell, he was a a famous actor from like the 60s, and he loved baseball. He was like a bat boy for the Yankees back in the day. And so he, had some money. And so he basically brought baseball back as an independent team. And it was really hard for him. So it's this documentary talks about how these, he had open tryouts, and these guys, all these guys that were washed up, and, he gave a bunch of dudes second chances, and they performed, and they beat the living shit out of all of these, guys that were going to be, that were catered to and groomed to be the next generation of Major League Baseball players. And it's a super, fascinating story. And it's a very much an underdog story, but it just reminded me of that, because they just, like, he wasn't paid. He didn't have a lot of money to go after guys, but anyway, check it out. Battered Bastards of Baseball, Portland Mavericks. It's really entertaining, but yeah, it's difficult. You definitely have an uphill battle. But if you look at if we can kind of transition, because I can't keep you here all night. We both have kids, but if we can kind of transition a little bit, so you guys go pro, and then kind of just touch on that real quick before we jump into how things happen then. But because then COVID hits. Do you guys? And then I'm also wondering if COVID helped you, hurt you. I feel like it might have helped you, because it was so much. You seem to have like a local group of guys that can train a bit, but I'm just kind of wondering what the special secret, talking about climbing the mountain, and summoning the invisible swordsman, and then solving the riddle to figure shit out. But it definitely looked like that happened to you guys at some point in time, which we'll get to in a second. But you guys go pro, and obviously you get, lucky, like you said, a little bit. You guys, it's a big ask from the world, but you're like, hell yeah, we want to do this. And then you guys come in, and then sure, things don't go great for you guys right away, because like we were just breaking down, I mean, you're basically a AAA team playing the Yankees when you're playing Edmonton Impact or, Houston Heat. But like I've said on many shows before, I mean, if you want to be a pro paintball player, you're either a hired gun for a rich guy, or you're a poster boy for a company. There is a third way. It's kind of like the dynasty way, though they've done those before. But then there's everybody else, and everyone else is just basically you guys. They're trying to make it. They're assembling a group of guys and trying to shoot the moon. And it's really hard, because money's an issue, training time's an issue. You're training against guys that have a ton of money to do this, and a ton of time to do it, because this is what they get paid to do. So you come in Vegas, but it wasn't terrible right out the gate. I mean, 14th is not last place. And then you go to World Cup, take 13th. Not great. You're not lighting the paintball world on fire, but it wasn't 20th. And then the start to this year, this is when, it wasn't great. It was the opposite. You guys were getting beat up, a 20th, 19th, and then you're sitting, okay, well, Jesus Christ, if we don't do something, we're going to get relegated. But take me back before we jump into the mindset of right this second, and then just this past couple events. Talk to me about going pro, that first event, and what that was like.
Yeah. So it just goes to show you how fickle and just how hard this is my argument against more regular relegation. So we got 14th and 13th by winning one match. We took Infamous to overtime, I think, in our first event as well, but we beat Aftermath both events, and we got 13th and 14th, one win. In Philly, we beat Heat, and we got 19th place. It's the same record. We went 1-3, but we beat Heat, and then we got 19th place. So that's where it's
yeah, but it's the other.
It's all part of our.
It's not like who you beat. It's not who you beat necessarily. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, but
of course,
you know what I'm saying. It's
100%.
Margin.
Well, I guess it's part of, I think that's a big part of our story too, is just that, like, we're out there, and we were happy that when we go out and we beat Aftermath, we got our first pro win in our first event. So now our guys are saying, okay, people don't think we should be here. Fuck all those guys. We know what we are, and let's go prove it. And so we go out and we get our win. We're like, okay, so there you go. We can beat a pro team. We're all right. And then, we end up in that second bracket, which is very important, especially when you're a new team. But we only got to play 2 events our first pro season. So very exciting, dream come true. I mean, I can tell you stories about, like Danny Schonauer, our snake assassin, his mom is very involved with all of his paintball stuff. She's always in the pits filling pods. And she, there's this one point where he gets like a 3-pack against Dynasty, shoots Marcelo, and like his mom just grabs me and is just like sobbing, crying from the sidelines. It was just a big moment just for all of us. But, I mean, she's watched him play her whole life. And now it's like her son's, getting 3-packs against Dynasty. It was just a cool, I felt really cool to be able to just help tie everything together. Obviously I'm not playing, the guys are playing. I'm just sort of the, just trying to steer the ship and promote it. But that was just, we've had a lot of those cool moments where you just sort of get to fulfill your paintball prophecy for all these guys that are on the team. So COVID
just real quick before we move on, because so Vegas 2020 first pro event, you guys win your first pro game against Aftermath, who actually had a really good event, and that was their only good event after the year before. But so Aftermath it's kind of an interesting story there. That's a whole different story. I don't want to go down the Aftermath road too much because we only have limited time with you. I want to kind of stay on topic as much as we can and kind of talk about this pro road. But you have, and that was a 10-8 game, which until this last event set the record for in the modern incarnation of the NXL for points scored. But then you guys got mercy ruled by AC Dallas. So, you were up by 2, and then now a -4, and then you lose by 4 to Dynasty, so a -8, and then you lose by 1, so a -9. So you go 1-3 with a -9 at your first event. But you know what though? Like that 1 point a game against Infamous, I mean, you didn't get mercy ruled against Dynasty. Like it was not the terrible showing that a lot of people thought, again, and a win against Aftermath, not the terrible showing that everyone thought that you were going to have. And then the big break, obviously, between how did COVID affect the team? The fact that you have your field, I heard a lot of good things actually about once the first initial, like, oh, little baby Jesus, please don't ruin everything. Okay, this 2 months sucks, but then all of a sudden everything came roaring back, and people that had outdoor businesses and particularly paintball fields that were well run seemed to be doing really well through COVID. Was that the case for you guys?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so we played that event, then the world gets shut down 3 months. I just had, our baby Nico. And so it was just family time. It was just kind of nice, but yeah, then the world opens up, the field is just absolutely murdering it. There's nothing else to do. And then as far as the team goes, so then we started playing these invitationals. There was one at in Kentucky at Asylum, and then I hosted that next one that Rich and Go Sports came out to, which was great. So we occupied the time. Level has done every non-NXL pro event that there has been this whole time, and there's been a bunch. There's been like, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them, and we do them all. We play, because we know we have to do everything we can to get better, and competing is the best way to get experience, we think. And so anytime there's those invitationals, although yes, it's like, it's not the big name teams, but for us, it's just a practice that you guys are filming. We don't care. We don't care if we get last place. If we're out there competing, we're getting better. We know it. So in between those, the Vegas event, then there's the shutdown. We played, I think, 2 invitational events, and then we go to World Cup. Same thing. We beat Aftermath. So
I got your World Cup record right here. You beat Aftermath again by 2 this time. Then you lose by 4 to AC Dallas. And then you lose by 1 to the Ironman. So that, obviously the Ironman had a lot of changes from their win at the beginning of part of the year, and then some changes into to World Cup. But still, that's not a terrible loss. And then you get mercy ruled by AC Diesel. So kind of a tough situation there. But that one win again didn't put you down terribly. But then things did not go really well for you guys necessarily in the start of this year. I mean, what I remember talking to you, you seemed pretty confident heading into 2021 with the layouts and the way the guys were playing, and kind of obviously the D side, strong side at that first event. Kind of what was going on in everyone's head leading into that event, and then afterwards when things just didn't go well for you guys at all.
Yeah, so we I mean, we're always confident, Matty, and like we unintentionally are very exciting for you guys, just with the way some of our matches go. But our guys are good. Like our top line and even deeper than that. I mean, we are a good team, and we've just been scratching at this wall, just trying to show everybody else. And it's tough. Like I'm not, no excuses.
Yeah.
It's just fucking hard. And a lot can go wrong. We get into that next tier, which was always our goal for, season one. Robbie always harped, we have to finish top 14, top 15, so we can get in that next tier for the draws. And we achieve that goal. And then of course that event, we get Aftermath again, but it's now Hinman's Aftermath, which is literally a completely different team. And they're a Sunday team. So like, why do we get, so just unlucky stuff like that. But it's just those little things make such a big difference when everything is on the line, when every point margin matters, and when every win and loss is just so unbelievably important, especially when you're, dangling or dancing around relegation or whatever the motivation is. But, when that's where our pressure really sunk in on us was, that we're going in, not really pressure on us other than just a new season as a pro team going into that first event. We definitely got smoked. We played good teams. They beat the shit out of us. We had a couple chances, but we made a lot of mistakes during those matches, and we deserve to lose, and it is what it is. And we go into the next event. There's tons of pressure on us now because we're trying to
Hold on real quick. I know this. I know you want to blaze right over this, but this I feel is a crucial growth moment because a lot of people may be in the part of this career. Hey, you're in the part of your career where because you're saying like, hey, Matty, my guys are good. And for a while though, I had to kind of just take your word for that because I hadn't seen it really. I mean, I saw guys, in the 10-8 win, dudes are running all over the place on a fast field, and I'm like, oh wow, these guys play fast. And I'm definitely seeing some dudes that know how to run and gun and like they can play fun, entertaining, aggressive paintball. But I don't know what the hell is going to happen when they, meet all these different types of fields and in different situations. And, but because I trust you, because I've known you for a long time, I'm like, all right. And then Robbie too, I've known Robbie since, Tennessee days, back in college paintball as well. I've known that dude for over a decade. So I'm like, all right, I'll take these guys' word for it. These dudes are going to be good at some point in time. I'm not seeing it quite yet. Because, if you look at like the plus minuses, so if we start at the Sunshine State Major, your first one, you lose every single game you play. You go 0-4 and you only score 9 points and you have 27 points scored against you. That's a negative 18 for 20th place. It doesn't get much worse than that, to be honest. You lose to Aftermath by 3, you lose to Revo by 4. Thunder was on a run in the beginning of the year. They actually beat you worse than Aftermath and Revo did, lose by 5. You play Dynasty and you get mercy ruled, So that was a really rough start to the year on a layout that you thought you guys were going to be good, that your two best players, you stack them on the D side and they just didn't perform, So it's like super frustrating. But this is where, again, this is kind of one of those.
This is where you wanted to pause, journey, right? You wanted me to go back just so you could roast me for that?
Come on, man. I mean, what am I supposed to do here? I got Joseph Campbell's The Hero Journey. I know you're like, yeah. So then at the first event, whatever, we drew Aftermath again, and then so anyway, so on to the third event. Actually, let's just start there. Let's go second event. We beat Heat. But no, it's like a hero's journey, man. Like I said, I got Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey over there, and this is like that moment where the crisis starts to happen. How do you respond to the crisis? Sure. And the crisis was negative 18, and you didn't win a game, and then so basically you started off 2021 by losing your first 4 games, going negative 18, and you're in last place. Then you go and start your first 3 games of the second event with a mercy rule loss to Energy Elite, which is embarrassing because they're another up-and-coming team. And then you lose a mercy rule to Infamous, and Infamous is really good, so I get it. But so it's like you guys are just literally getting the shit kicked out of you, like for the first whole part of this. And there's another one coming up, and it's a lost X Factor. This wasn't a mercy rule loss, though. It was only by 5. So there was a brief moment there. It's like, oh, we didn't take a mercy rule loss. But then all of a sudden, for some reason, when we're looking at pivotal moments, for some reason it happened here. It didn't happen in between the event. Again, we talked about this with Rob. We had Robbie on on the live broadcast. We talked about that. We discussed it, who you guys practiced, that whole deal. But for some reason, this all changes with this win against Heat, because after that, so again, you're 0-7. And even with that win against Heat, you were a -16, 9 points for, 25 against. I mean, that's just abysmal here. -18 to start out and -16. I'm laying it on thick, brother, because it changes from here. So we got to make it seem as dramatic as possible, which it was. I mean, you guys were on the precipice of relegation. Everyone's hating again, like these dudes don't deserve to be here. It's for sure going to be level, getting booted down to semi-pro. And then you show up, so you lose to X Factor by 5, and then you beat Houston Heat, who won that tournament. You beat them 5-4. And again, people could be like, oh, well, they were trying stuff. And yeah, sure they were, but you still beat the team that won the tournament. So what the hell? Did you make a deal with the devil in the 2 hours it took between the loss to X Factor by 5 and then beating the team that wins the event? What the hell happened in that moment? And then we'll get to where you guys start looking like rock stars in a second here. But what happened in that moment? I want to know. People want to know.
Well, I mean, I would say just who gives a fuck? Go. Like, it was just, it was, I think you guys actually nailed it perfectly on the webcast. So wait, we can swear, right?
It's fine. Go ahead. We're not regulated by the FCC. People will probably appreciate the authenticity.
So for sure,
lay it out for me. Open and honest.
Nothing else to lose. Yeah, I mean, we have nothing else to use. But I honestly think, we all have talked about this a lot, because after that win, we are like, what happened? We're trying to figure it out so we can recreate it, of course. And I think that you and Rich really nailed it on the webcast, where we had nothing to lose because we had already lost so much. Obviously no pressure on us because we're beyond knocked out at that point. And I also think that a lot of the guys, especially our really like our killers, just really had something to prove. And I think they just full sent. And it was, I don't know, it was something clicked. We still kind of don't really know exactly why, what the turning point was. And the biggest thing that we found in Chicago, which we were so proud of, was that it wasn't just a fluke. We just caught fire for no reason. It legitimately was a turning point for all of us. And if that doesn't happen, I don't know what the hell happens in Chicago, but I know that because that happened, it gave everybody confidence from the top to bottom, from myself to Robbie. A lot of people, that Robbie coming on to coach us was my idea. Like, I just called him because we needed a coach, and coaches are actually a very bizarre thing in paintball. They are very few and far between. Yeah. You can get 20 players for every good coach. And I definitely want us to have a coach going into the pro division, but Robbie's first year coaching was that COVID year for us, coaching on the professional level. He was a captain. He was a player on CEP. He wasn't the coach of CEP. He was the captain of it and a stud back player. So it's, every event we play, we learn. And that's, again, going back to the relegation thing, is that we need events to get better as an organization. Like, I have responsibilities, I'm in charge of paint, I'm in charge of this, in charge of that. Every event we get a little trick or a little trade from all of these other pro teams that have sort of taken us on our wing, which we're so thankful for. Joey Blute from Damage always is helping us out, and just how to become professional players. He rips our players for us. He rips me when I make a mistake. He rips Robbie when he's not coaching well. Joey. And then, just at this last event, we have Ryan Brand helping us out from X Factor. I mean, people want us to succeed. They want pro teams to succeed. And there's just every event you learn just something little that makes a humongous difference, whether it's it's Skinny Kevin's helping us learn how to become a better scout. I mean, everybody's helping us. And when we get that little tidbit, we get a little bit better. And, yes, we got absolutely trashed our first couple events. Still our first season. I mean, this Chicago event was our 5th event. That's technically our World Cup. We haven't been playing for a season. We got 2 events with 6 months in between them last year. And, so we are still like, we are still growing as an organization. And that's where we, when we make these little tiny milestones, like there's been several matches where we got our ass kicked, but we did like one or two things right that we had been messing up every match prior to that. And Robbie will point those out. He'll rip us for getting our ass kicked, and then he'll say, but we didn't get any penalties that match, or but we laned the snake runner every point we put their guns on, or just whatever it is. There's always like those little things that we get. So I don't know. We were talking about the Heat thing. I don't know what the hell happened, man. We caught fire and mentally, yeah.
I just wanted to know if it was a deal with the devil because it's such a big difference. No, I know it wasn't, but
yeah,
it's just, I think, but honestly, you know what it is? It's just, I'm telling you, man, it's like watching it happen and go down. And we see this all the time. You get these teams where their players are, you don't get into the pro division for the most part, unless you're a pretty legit paintball player. You have to have all the physical skills. You have to be able to obviously shoot left, right-handed. Everyone can do that. You have to be able to run a gun. You have to have some guys that are threats out there. But I started to see the guys that you were talking about, your starting five, really start to believe. I don't even know if it's believe in themselves. I just don't think they had a choice. It was like, you know what? This putting a lot of pressure on ourselves, and like, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm going to buy into the offense. And I'm just going to die going forward. And if I make it, I make it. If I don't, I don't. I don't care. But I'm going to get to that important bunker. And once I'm there, I'm not going to play. I'm going to really try incredibly hard to not play stupid. I'm going to not over battle. I'm going to try to talk it up. Like just paintball fundamental stuff that we constantly see teams like Level or Energy Elite or the Outlaw, whatever. Just pick any up-and-coming team, up-and-coming or whatever, whoever you are. If for the haters, it's shitty pro team that doesn't deserve to be there. For if you're positive, it's up and coming pro team or players or whatever it may be. The young guy that gets on the pro team that got the, a lot of people will be like, oh, this dude's even lucky to be there. Why does he even deserve to be there? But that paintball, not necessarily 101 stuff, but that 504, like your first level graduate class and it just all kind of seemed to work out, man. And because then it was just such a massive difference. So yeah, you beat Heat. But then you come into this third event. So again, 20th place, 19th place. You beat Heat by 1, which was a cool win. But again, a team that was already going to be in that maybe was trying some stuff. But then you come in and you're playing the Outlaws first. This is a team. If you're a lower ranked team, you have to beat the next team up, the next tier up, down or up. Like if you're 4 or 5, you have to beat that team. Because if you can't beat that team, you think you're going to beat Impact and Damage or Dynasty or whatever, the teams that are at that tier. Damage isn't going to be there anymore. Different story because they've taken 11th and 11th, but it wouldn't surprise me if Damage won World Cup. To be honest, that's a story for another day. But you beat the brakes off the Outlaws. You mercy rule them 7-1. So now you have you're 1-0 with a +6. Now you have to play Impact next. You beat Impact by 1, so you come off day 1 undefeated, and that Impact game was a storybook game. Then you're playing Tampa Bay Damage, and this is a pissed off Damage because Damage lost to Revo by 1 and went 1-1. That's a team that has to, you have that smirk on your face, and you deserve to have that smirk on your face because you should be reveling in this moment right now, this breakdown. So you're playing an Impact that wants to do well. You're playing a Damage that, again, after losing to Revo,
didn't make Sunday the last event either. Extra Fire.
It didn't make exactly. Extra Fire took 11th place at the last event, and then that went 1-1 on day 1, and then you beat them, and you didn't just beat them. You beat the living shit out of Tampa Bay Damage 6-1. And that was a really, really solid win. And that's when I was like, wow, everyone, I think it was, it's like, okay, they beat Heat. Heat was trying some stuff. Oh, they beat the Outlaws. The Outlaws, that's a team that, the Outlaws have been also struggling for consistency, deal with penalties a lot. They're at 15th place currently with the 12th and 20th. But then you go up, and I think like the Damage win, that's when people were like, at least I started to notice that everyone was being like, hey, dude, Level's legit now. What happened? And then that was kind of when the conversation really set in. And then you go play Revo, and now Revo knows they know what the score is now. They're like, okay, cool. We're dealing with the team that's on a hot streak. And Revo also needed to win. And and then you beat them 2 and you beat them by 1. And Revo really wanted that win because Revo did not make Sunday at the last event either. They were down some bodies. Revo went on to have a really storybook run on Sunday, but again, story for another time. We'll have those guys on. But that was just so, again, you went on a 5-0 run after losing 7 games in a row in the beginning of the year and getting just murdered. And now all of a sudden you're hanging with some of the best that have ever done it and looking good doing it. And you went on a 5-0 run. So it's just been like, everyone's like, what is going on here? This is what are we, now it's so hard to try to predict what's going to happen, even though, and I don't know if you guys run out of gas or it was just the moment or what happened, but then got to ask about what happened in the quarterfinals with X Factor, because, you know, X Factor came out with some fire. It's another team that, you know, talking about kind of any team on Sunday is going to be a tough draw, but you guys didn't have to play in the wild card round. But you're playing an X Factor that took 7th at the first event, 9th at the last event, and did lose to Heat again and got mercy ruled in the prelims. So they wanted to, and they had picked up some new guys that were trying to prove themselves. So, but they kind of put it on you guys a bit. That was a mercy rule loss. But before we get to that, the Sunday performance, what was the feeling like in the prelims for you? Obviously, you got to tell the story, the shoe bet with Harris. Got to hear that a little bit too. So yeah, just talk to me about what was going on in your mind in the prelims here.
Well, I mean, the win against Outlaws really set the tone where every event we go into, we're feeling good, you know, but the night before everyone's feeling good. We prepare, we play a lot, you know, we're not half-assing this. We are fully committed and shooting tons of paint to try to get there, right? So every event we go into super confident to go out against the Outlaws, who actually they play well. I mean, they were, I don't know, a couple 12th places. You know, they're a team that typically will like win a game or two. And so, like you said, it's the team that we got to beat. So when we got our first mercy rule against them, I think the team, you know, it's just that's the monkey off your back. And then I think the rest was just really having fun. And that's what we've been preaching that event was every time let's go have fun. We used to go in super serious and now we're much more laid back. We think that that's a better mantra just for our guys in particular. And it just helps kind of take some of that pressure off, of course. The impact win was just legendary. I mean, it was, you know, the highlights of all of our careers. And that team meeting and just dinner afterwards and just everything was just like the best, of course. The damage win was crazy. I mean, I didn't expect it. Damage has always been kind of, you know, that's our practice sparring partner. This was the first event we didn't get to practice them because they were in our bracket. So we, you know, that was a big one for us because we're used to them just kicking our butts in Florida before every event, right? And then we come out and we were just executing. We were on fire. I think for that event we had a really good game plan that not a lot of other people were doing. Came off like a little slow playing. We went wide and looked inside. A lot of teams weren't doing that. Most teams were going out wide and wrapping. And we really committed to looking inside, and it worked, especially against a lot of the better teams. I don't think we're used to it or expecting it, but our back guys were also playing lights out. We were shooting a lot of people off the break. It was just, I don't know. Damage got some penalties that definitely helped us. We definitely got gifted, I think 2 or 3 points because of penalties, but they also kind of deserved them. I mean, I'm not talking shit, but there's one point where, you know, Holiday just started charging at one of our guys, screaming and pointing his finger. Like, of course you're going to get a penalty for that. And just a couple of stuff like that, you know, we got a couple gimmies, but we didn't blow it. And we didn't lose gun battles. We didn't make mistakes. I think one big difference between our team this event versus any other event we've ever played is we're getting a lot better at not making rookie dumb mistakes. It drives us crazy when we go back and watch film and we just see, oh, well, because you made this dumb move, you got shot, and that's why we lost that point. And just pretty much any point, you have to play perfect in pro. Boring thing to say, but it's the truth. And I think every event we play, we're just making less mistakes, and it just really pays off. Yeah.
Just maybe I think this would be a good time before we kind of sign off in a few minutes here. just kind of take me from Snake side over to the D side and talk about the starting five that you had, because I feel like that was one of the things that when you guys first went pro, you were running a little bit, kind of trying to figure out who your guys were going to be, right? I mean, you have a pretty deep roster, you're getting guys some spins, but slowly but surely you guys have figured, and this is just the progression of every team, and this is how it should be if you want to contend and not get relegated. But you guys have kind of gone with a pretty solid line. So maybe you could just go start Snake side, go to the D side, start with Danny, and just go over of the guys you felt did the heavy lifting for your team in that run in Chicago, and then even going back to that Heat win as well too. Just kind of what I think should be level moving forward. Again, everyone plays a role. I'm not saying somebody can't come and take a spot from somebody, but as it stands right now, people, and I'm having to learn these guys too. Also, would you please do me a solid, Pando, because I know you have it in the budget and people. I need big names on the back with white, huge names, so everyone can read these names. Okay, so it says Schonauer, like big as hell, right? So when I look across, it's not a black name on a dark green jersey with black accents, and even though I still have 2010 vision, I still can't read the goddamn name, and I'm like, I don't know who that is, dude. I want to give this guy a shine, but I've been trying to do this, and I need to get my binoculars. Anyway, I'm just saying. Big, huge white names. You can have an accent on the back of them, but just like maybe like black on the outside, but huge white, gigantic across. Because people need to start knowing these guys, man. You got like legit talent on your team now. Anyway, start with Danny and go on over from the Snake side.
Sounds good. I texted Williamson while you were saying that from Dye to get our new jerseys to be better. But also, you should have binoculars. I mean, what, like asking you to figure out who's playing on D1 on the other side. I'm just like, that's a tall ask. Like if a dude has a big number, but he's 100 feet away from you, tucked behind a whatever.
We've also gone away. It's frustrating. We've also gone away from like loader numbers are great too. Like shoulder numbers, right. Loader numbers.
I agree. Loader numbers.
It's just it's just frustrating. And then you've done me the solid mostly of getting me your lineup, but you didn't do it this time. So it's a little frustrating, bro. It's 200 pro players. I want to give everyone their shine. And you guys were terrible in the beginning of the year, and all of a sudden you guys are doing great. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, was that Lemon, Schonauer? How the hell do I pronounce this guy's name? It's not Politi. I know who that redhead is. Anyway. But so I want to give everyone their shine. So let's give some guys their shine. Start at the Snake side and go across.
Okay, we'll do it. So before I go to the players, we also have to give our coach Robbie actually deserves tons of credit, especially for this last event. Robbie's been building this for 2 years, and we always talk, actually one of our other guys, but Atomic Habits. You ever read that book? I'm sure you have. You probably memorized it.
Wait, you were breaking Atomic up for a second. Habits. What was it?
Oh, sorry. There's a book called Atomic Habits, but yeah, I don't know. It's about talent being on like an exponential curve. And a big, just a very slow process, and something that Robbie preaches to our guys a lot. And I think it's profound, just that we're not going to see short-term success, right off the bat. It's going to be a long grind. And I think, but when you do make the turning point, it goes up exponentially typically, instead of like a steady gain. And I think that Robbie has done a great job grooming this team and finding the lineup and figuring out how to play everybody to their best. So I want to give him his shout out too, because I think he deserves a huge shout out. So then 100%. Starting on the Snake side, we got Danny Schonauer. He's our Snake 1 assassin. He's quick, he's sneaky, but he's got insane field awareness, and he's always been our solid guy. That one event we threw him on the D side, it really didn't work, and that hurt us. I wish it was just a weird snake, but Danny's always like our number one. And then Politi is his sub, and Politi also tends to step up at events as well. But Danny's typically our starting snake, and then Politi goes in every couple points as well, just to keep fresh legs and throw different looks at people. Then behind him is our new pickup this year. It was Corn Sheehan from Colorado Blitz. He was the captain of their team, and he was good. Giant pickup for us. He's real good, amazing gunfighter, really, really good communicator. Was a team captain, so he's a big game plan guy for us, and he's also extremely athletic. He has vegan superpowers, and those just allow him to be just absolutely just flexible and, whatever, all those other things that you get. And so he's, he takes care of our nutrition. Like, apparently we're not allowed to drink Gatorade anymore. It has to be body armor because of some crazy stuff that he told us. I don't know. Anyways, he's a rock solid guy, and just an amazing paintball player. And I mean, if you'll notice, anytime it's, Danny gets shot or does his trade, he's right in there right away. Very smart player. Then at the 3, you got our captain, Josh Lehman. We call him Lemon. I think you guys called him lime, orange, and all other citruses, but it's just Josh Lemon, man. He's our Lemon. He's our captain. He's the glue of the team. Extremely smart. One of those guys that can remember every point that he's ever played pretty much his whole life and what happened and how he got shot. He's just got a crazy left brain, not the kind that you and I have. Well, actually you probably have both, but he's he's a CPA, but he just, he can remember every point he's played, and he can literally like the Queen's Gambit, chess on the wall, can just reenact every situation. And it was what makes him such a good closer. And just really smart
he's a great
guy.
Closer. Yeah.
Great closer. And so yeah, he's our 3. Then going over the D side, our 2 is this gangster Matt Askren. I would consider him a heavy gunner. He shoots 12 pods a game no matter what. He's our buzzer guy. You'll notice he's very often the guy that's hanging the buzzer. He's got insane survivability. Probably our best shooter off the break, and he just dumps. And that's why he's such a good support player. And that's why on that particular, at the Chicago event, you guys kept calling it the trash can. Askren was murdering people out of that trash can all day because we were keeping people out of the snake as well as part of the game plan. But we kept sending him there because he's just such a good gun battler, very good at staying alive. And he would just dump.
He's your Yosh Rao.
Yeah, he's Yosh. For sure he's Yosh. 1,000,000%. And so he's our 2, starting 2 on the D side. And then our 1 is the rock star Sam Silberg. He is a fellow Jewish man like myself, which is why he's just so great. And he's a killer. He's really hard to shoot. He's the most sarcastic dude I ever met in my life. He's really funny. But yeah, Sam Silberg, he was from Annapolis A team a couple years ago, and we picked him up when we first started, and he's been a huge asset to us. And he's a murderer. He's really good. Then you had met. So that's our starting 5, and we've got 11 right now. Guys that have been around forever. Some guys that are new, and we like to run deep so that we can, it's all part of the family. We're on this experience together. We're a team. Everybody on the team plays a role. Some guys don't play points, but they take care of our equipment. They make sure we're solid in the pits. And with Corona and injuries, and you never know. It's good to roll deep. Revo this past event in a crazy tough spot. With 6 guys, I think. So
and they did amazing on Sunday.
I know, crazy. But yeah, so that's our starting 5, and I think we're definitely going to run that 5 hard. And all of them have already signed 10-year contracts, just so everybody else knows. And so, that's what it is.
Hey, that's important, because once you get good, I was telling Corey already knows. I don't need to tell Corey Field from Thunder, but it's like, you get good, all of a sudden, here comes the teams being like, what's Dave giving you? You happy? You feeling good over there? Like, how's 10 guns?
Everyone's so happy, Matty. Okay. Like, literally so happy over here. I mean, it's, dude, like 1.5 million just to be here. Like, everybody's doing great.
That's impressive, dude. I'm so happy that you've just been dominating and crushing it, like I always knew you would, and just signing dudes to 10-year contracts and paying them the money they deserve. So talking about Pando, no, the team's looking good, legit. It really is, man. I mean, the run you guys have been on recently. Now the tough thing is, like, look at what Thunder just did. Thunder had a really good beginning of the year where they were 5th place overall. They're currently 10th. They took a 5th and a 6th. But they just came up into this last event. Like, this cannot be you guys at Cup. Again, don't put a lot of pressure on yourselves. I feel like that is absolutely fundamental and crucial for at least the guys that you have on your team. Look,
I
some
know.
guys
Isn't
you
it
can
funny
put
that
tons of
we're
pressure
gonna
on.
go in with the pressure again, and it's gonna, we
Well,
went
I'm
from
hoping
tons of pressure, zero pressure, and
well,
now back up.
I just could look. AC Dallas is in 20th place. We're gonna be signing off soon, so I got to put you got to download all this info pretty quick. AC Dallas is at 20th. ML Kings are at 19th. DMG is at 18th. We're talking 90 points overall for AC Dallas, 116 for ML Kings, 132 for DMG, and 155 for you guys. So, and then 162 for Uprising, 177 for Outlaws. It's all kind of close, and then there's a huge gap up to 14th place. So from Outlaws down, so from 15th down, depending on what happens at Cup, it could get weird with who takes that 20th place. Obviously, it's all about AC Dallas and what are they going to do at Cup. AC Dallas has to do what you guys did at this last event to avoid relegation, which would be obviously horrible for Paulie and his rebuild. It's just tough, but I've been telling anyone to listen for a while. This game is getting as competitive as it's ever been. Teams like yourself are proving that. Thunder, even though, it's just crazy because I was kind of going through and writing what my wife calls my tweaker notes, which is like basically every point that's played. I need to have as much information as I possibly can in one place so I can reference it as quick as possible, and I have them for every event that's played. So, but when you look at this, it's kind of it's been crazy, the ups and downs here, but Thunder is in that situation right now where they don't have to worry about relegation, but they came off this really cool story they were having, and they had really bad practices. They couldn't keep going at the event. And they lost every single game. They had a negative 15. Pando, 13 points for, 28 against, negative 15. It was really bad for them. So, if somehow AC Dallas, ML Kings, and DMG have really good events, and you guys have a terrible event, it could get bad for you guys again. I don't really see that happening with the way you guys are playing, because that starting five that you just named off, when those guys play with reckless abandon, with very little pressure on themselves, it's impressive, because every single one of those guys was doing in this 5-0 run that you were on from the Heat win until the loss to X Factor in the quarterfinals. It's the same thing with Thunder. Now for you guys, it's like these up and coming teams. Okay, cool. We've seen what's possible. What do you do now? How do you approach the mentality? Because that's what it's all going to be about. Obviously the training, that just gets you in the door, man. You have to show up. You have to keep your skills sharp. That just gets you in the door. The mental tenacity, the mistakes that are made in the pressure situations, like that's going to decide what's going to happen on Sunday. And the moment kind of hits you guys in that loss against X Factor. I was hoping for a closer game. You guys aren't there yet, but I do believe in the talent you have. Again, I'm glad you signed him to 1.5 10-year contracts, because that's going to be really good for you guys moving forward. But yeah, so before I let you go, we got to talk about your bracket, which could be absolutely filthy, dude. Like, this could be the bracket of death, Dave. This is nasty, dude. It's Impact. Okay, so Impact, the number 1 ranked team in the world currently still, even though they took 10th at the last event. So you're going to get a hungry Impact, but it's a team you can beat because you already beat them. Damage. You've also beat Damage. But Damage has taken 11th and 11th, and they're going to be as hungry as any team. It wouldn't surprise me if Damage showed up and won World Cup. But the roster that they have, the experience that team has, if they won World Cup, that would not be bizarro land where no one could predict that, even though they have had 2 really bad events in a row. But even more so, they're probably going to be training like wild beasts leading in. Now you get Thunder. Thunder also with the story, right? Another situation. You guys, up and coming squad. What are they going to have to? And then Energy Elite. They went 3-1 in the prelims. So at the last event, that's another team that 13th overall for Energy Elite, 7th place. They were right behind you guys.
Yeah,
to me,
I know.
that is one of the more
bummed. Yeah.
Quick, story-wise,
okay.
Compelling, as far as compelling narratives, that bracket, that's a nasty, disgusting bracket that could be the bracket of death. Before I let you go, your thoughts.
Well, we're definitely bummed for Energy Elite. They're we kind of we like those guys. We practiced with them a lot, and we were very proud and stoked for those guys when they went 3-1 and made their Sunday too. They, both of us making Sunday our first event, or for the first time at Chicago. So we want we didn't want to be in the same bracket. We wanted to go, mess everybody else up in other brackets so we could play each other or something. We just but that being said, of course that's a team, and they've kicked our asses several times in the past. I think they mercy rolled us before. they always have our number. So we're looking for some redemption against them now, which is going to be fun. And then, yeah, I mean, impact damage, same bracket. Thunder, we'll see. Yeah, obviously, everyone's going to be. It's World Cup, man. We're excited. This is going to be the most exciting World Cup for us for sure. And now we've got something to prove, but we've proven it to ourselves, which I think is a big thing for us. And so now it's where do we go from here? You're right. We gotta prove it on the field.
If you could make it out of that bracket, Pando, oh man, that would be such a huge story. What? I mean, you're still sitting down in that 5th tier. Energy Elite is actually above you in the tiers, but that would be a huge thing for the franchise moving into 2022. And I feel it's, if you guys can, it's, again, everyone always talks about it, the hippies in our lives, all the that's all about a vibe this, vibe that, you know. Look, and I love those people, and I love having those people around. We all have those friends, but watching you guys play and understanding the power of positive thinking and how lasered in you guys were when you believing in the cause and believing in each other, believing in each one of their abilities, it was very impressive to see. That's what's possible. All those wins you guys put up against these top teams. So, but before I let you go, you do have to tell one story for me. I totally forgot about this, but is the shoe story, the Harris Hussein shoe story, before we sign off.
Well, the story is that I've got Harris's shoe. Man, they should have been right behind me. What am I doing? I got him back in the pro shop, but our team obtained Harris Hussein's shoes, the product of an amazing turn of events involving. We're about to play Damage. Everyone's drinking in the VIP. Todd Adamson, Poopy, and Dave Youngblood are hanging out, just drinking in the pits. They're talking shit to Harris, I'm sure, or he's talking shit to them, one of the two. And some coins start getting thrown around, and Todd puts up a black Hormesis coin up against 3 of Harris's gold coins and his left shoe that Harris bet that Damage would win. Todd put his faith in us that Level would win. And since Todd's sitting next to Dave Youngblood, who obviously sponsors us and, you know, we're all very grateful to Dave, and he wants the other shoe. So he makes some other side bet with some cash. And the bet was that if Level won, then Dave would get the other shoe. And if Damage won, then Dave was going to have to sell New York Extreme t-shirts at the NYX booth, which would have been super funny. And I mean, I'm glad we won, but that would have been really funny to see happen, because Dave would probably have sold more shirts than they've ever sold. Really good salesman. And I think he even had a few Bud Lights as well. But anyways, so we end up winning, and we end up winning. And then I heard about the bet. Somebody posted it in our team's group chat. And as soon as I saw that, I texted Dave and I said, hey, you guys can keep all the cash and coins or whatever, but we just want the shoes. Give us the shoes. And he texted me, oh yeah, they're hanging in the dye booth. Just go grab them. So I run to the dye booth, grab them. And then all day Sunday when we played Revo, and then eventually X Factor, I was wearing them around my neck, petting them for good luck. They worked against Revo, but I could not pet them hard enough against X Factor, unfortunately. But yeah, I still got the shoes.
Oh, so good. Well, that's a hell of a story. You guys are dealing with a hell of a story right now, and I don't think anywhere close to being over. I mean, regardless of what happens at World Cup, I mean, the way you guys have performed at this last event, and then leading into the win against Heat, or coming off of that win against Heat at the second event, it's with the team you have. I think if you guys can keep that core together and keep working the way you've been working and keep that belief, it could be really fun to watch. It's already been fun to watch. So, Pando, thank you so much for sitting in with me. Really appreciate it. Everyone, we're going to be having a ton of content coming at you here leading up to World Cup, and that's just bracket A. Where the other brackets are wild and crazy too. Tournament paintball is getting great. Any last thoughts, Dave, before we sign off?
Yeah, big, super important last thought I have is I just want to congratulate you, Matty Marshall, on shooting a 79 today. Absolutely well done. You broke 80. My man.
It did. Wasn't today, but I appreciate that. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate that. I've been working hard on the game for the past couple years. It finally all came together. It all came together. No mullies either, dude. Legit 79.
No mollies. What a absolute stud. Can't wait for World Cup.
Hey, you're coming.
Be golfing a lot.
Hey, it's gonna be fun. Yeah, we're actually kind of potentially. I was talking to Darren. We might be doing some Go Sports golf paintball content. We'll see. There's just so many golf dudes that play paintball, so we might have some golf content coming at you here soon. So stay tuned for that. We will see. But anyway, Dave, I appreciate the thank you. I appreciate that. Good looking out. Keep it up with the team. It's definitely looking outstanding. Don't blow it for a World Cup. No pressure, though. No pressure. Super easy bracket.
No pressure.
It's going to be a piece of cake for you guys. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Anyway, no, seriously. Hey, thank you so much for joining me. And thank you guys so much for joining us.
Matty.
And no problem, brother. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.